Never judge a book by its cover, because sometimes the person you look down on today might be the very one who holds your future in their hands tomorrow. Stay tuned till the end of this story, you won't believe the twist. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more jaw-dropping life stories, only here on Storyscape. The night was young, and the bar in the downtown city was buzzing with laughter, clinking glasses, and the glow of neon lights, a place where wealthy businessmen mingled, influencers posed for selfies, and young dreamers came to forget their troubles. But sitting at the far end of the counter was Daniel, a humble man dressed in a plain shirt and worn-out jeans, nursing a glass of water because he couldn't even afford a cocktail. He wasn't there to impress anyone. He was simply there to escape the loneliness that had consumed his life since his mother had fallen ill and all his money had gone into her treatment. Yet despite his hardships, Daniel had a gentle smile, kind eyes, and a quiet dignity that few could see past the surface. And that's when in walked Veronica, a woman who turned heads the moment she entered, stunning in a sparkling red dress, dripping with jewelry, the type of woman who thrived on attention, wealth, and luxury. And she sat just a few seats away from Daniel, scanning the room like a predator looking for her next prey, her eyes landing on Daniel only for a moment before she smirked, clearly dismissing him as beneath her. For Veronica was what people whispered behind her back. A gold digger, someone who only dated men for their money, status, and gifts. And she thrived on manipulating others into believing she was their dream girl while she drained their wallets dry. So when Daniel, in his politeness, offered a soft, "Good evening," with a shy smile, Veronica burst into laughter loud enough for nearby patrons to hear, saying, "Good evening. Oh honey, do you even know what kind of place this is? Men like you don't belong here. This is a bar for successful people, not broke nobodies in thrift store clothes." And her cruel words echoed, drawing stares and chuckles from a few strangers who thought they were in on the joke. Daniel's cheeks flushed with embarrassment, but instead of snapping back, he lowered his gaze and whispered, "I hope you have a good night," which only made Veronica laugh harder as she waved the bartender over to order the most expensive champagne on the menu, making sure to flash her diamond-covered phone as she live-streamed her glamorous life to her followers, mocking Daniel indirectly by saying things like, "Ladies, never settle for a man who can't even buy you a drink. Know your worth and demand the best." But what she didn't realize was that sitting at another corner of the bar, watching the entire scene unfold, was a man named Richard, dressed in a crisp designer suit, with an aura of quiet power, for he was one of the wealthiest young CEOs in the city, known for his sharp mind and even sharper eye for character. And he happened to know Daniel, not as a friend, but as the quiet janitor who worked nights in the office building Richard owned. A man who, despite having little, always greeted everyone with kindness and never once complained about his struggles. And Richard, having lost his own parents to poverty once, respected Daniel deeply, though Daniel had no idea. So as Veronica flaunted her arrogance, Richard began forming a plan, curious to see just how far her shallow nature would go, for life has a way of humbling those who build their pride on the suffering of others. The night dragged on, and Veronica, thinking she had secured the attention of a wealthy older gentleman at the other end of the bar, strutted over to him, flashing her brightest smile, only to be politely brushed off. And when she glanced back at Daniel, she smirked again, deciding to make him the target of her ridicule for entertainment. So she approached him and said loudly, "Tell me, how much money do you even make in a year? Enough to take a woman like me on a trip to Paris? Or are you one of those sad little men who think buying a girl a burger counts as romance?" And though her words stung, Daniel simply replied, "I don't have much, but what I do have, I give with sincerity. I believe love isn't about money, it's about care, loyalty, and respect." And those words, though mocked by Veronica who rolled her eyes and sneered, secretly struck a chord with some people nearby who heard, even the bartender who frowned at her cruelty. Yet Veronica wasn't done. She pulled out her phone and said, "I should record this. Look at this broke guy trying to lecture me on love. This is hilarious." And began live streaming him to her followers, who flooded the chat with laughing emojis, calling Daniel names, and Veronica reveled in their attention. But Richard had seen enough. He quietly approached, pretending to be interested in Veronica, and she immediately shifted her demeanor, putting on her seductive smile. "Well, hello, handsome stranger," she purred, clearly dazzled by his expensive suit and watch. And Richard played along, buying her a glass of champagne, asking questions, testing her character as Daniel silently finished his water and prepared to leave. But before he could step out, Richard stopped him, placing a hand on his shoulder and saying, "Don't leave yet. I want you to stay," confusing everyone, especially Veronica, who now saw Daniel as a nuisance she wanted gone. Yet Richard insisted, pulling Daniel to sit beside him. And then Richard smiled at Veronica and said, "You know, Daniel here is one of the most hardworking, genuine men I've ever met. He may not wear designer clothes, but he has a heart richer than any jewel you flaunt." And Veronica laughed, thinking it was a joke, saying, "Oh please, don't tell me you're defending this loser." But Richard's expression hardened as he said, "Loser? Do you know who you're mocking? Daniel here is an employee in my company, a man who cleans my building every night so that others may work in a clean environment the next day, and never once has he complained or asked for recognition. While people like you think the world owes them everything, he quietly sacrifices for his sick mother, giving all he has for her treatments, and you dare call him worthless?" And the entire bar went silent, eyes widening, as Veronica's face drained of color, realizing too late she had humiliated a man far more respected than she ever knew. And when Richard added, "And for your information, Daniel isn't just an employee. I've been considering him for a financial aid program, one that could change his life, and seeing his character tonight, I know I've made the right choice." The entire room erupted into applause, strangers nodding in admiration, while Veronica stood frozen, clutching her glass, her fake confidence crumbling. But the story didn't end there, because Richard decided to take things further, turning to Veronica with a chilling calmness. "Tell me, Veronica, what exactly do you bring to a relationship besides demands? If the money disappeared tomorrow, what would you offer?" And Veronica stammered, trying to salvage her pride. I bring beauty, charm, class. Men should provide. Women deserve luxury." But Richard cut her off sharply. "No, what you bring is emptiness, a void that feeds on others until there's nothing left, and you call it love, but it's greed dressed in lipstick." And with that, he stood, placing an arm around Daniel, leading him out as Veronica's live stream, still running, captured every humiliating word, her followers now turning against her, flooding the chat with criticism, calling her shallow, heartless, and fake. And within days, the clip went viral across social media, destroying her online image, brand deals pulling out, followers unfollowing, and invitations to parties disappearing, while Daniel, with Richard's mentorship, found his life turning around. Richard sponsored his mother's treatment, gave him a new job opportunity, and encouraged him to pursue his passion for graphic design, something Daniel had long buried due to poverty. And within a year, Daniel had transformed, no longer the quiet man in worn-out jeans at a bar, but a confident designer working alongside Richard's company, presenting his art to major clients. And when one day he walked into that same bar, dressed in a tailored suit with his mother healthy and smiling beside him, people barely recognized him, except Veronica, who sat in a corner, her once glamorous life reduced to bitterness, her beauty no longer backed by wealth or fame. And when she saw Daniel, she rushed over, forcing a sweet smile. "Daniel, I've missed you, you look incredible, maybe we could." But Daniel simply shook his head, his eyes kind but firm. "I wish you well, Veronica, but I've learned that true worth isn't found in money or looks. It's in how we treat others, especially when they have nothing to give us in return." And with that, he walked away, leaving her standing in silence, haunted by the regret of her own choices, for she had shamed a poor man in arrogance, and lived to regret it forever. While Daniel's story became an inspiration to many that the world may overlook you, mock you, or call you worthless, but your value lies not in their opinion, but in your character, perseverance, and heart.